read the book, watched the movie. Do I really feel like the movie was worth the watch? Not necessarily. So today, judging by the title, I'm going to be doing a book review on some books that I have read over the last few, like literally weeks, months, however long. I actually just noticed that I've actually never done a book review on this channel. I've only done a few TBRs. So I was like, yeah, let's do a book review on some books that I have read over the last few, months, weeks, however long. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop in today's video. So the very first book that I finished or that I read was Reminders of Him. If you don't know, this is actually a movie now too. I actually didn't even know it was a book before I watched the movie. Well, no, excuse me. When the movie first came out, I didn't know it was a book until I saw that, oh, okay, this is actually a book now. So of course, me being a book nerd, I was like, you know what, I definitely want to watch I definitely want to read the book before I watch the movie. And that's exactly what I did, which may or may not have made it a little bit different for me. But pretty much the book is movie and book. It's pretty much about Kenna, and Kenna is someone who just got out of prison because she served time because her and her then fiance, kind of like boyfriend, Scotty, they ended up getting into a car accident one day on his birthday. They had been drinking. I think they had they had smoked a little bit of their edibles or whatever. And they ended up getting into a crash. She tried to save him. She was trying to go out into the road because it was like a road where nobody was on. And wasn't able to get help. She ended up back into her apartment. It obviously looked bad because her boyfriend was, literally dead on the side of the road. Now I do think he actually was alive at the time of the accident, but it was just so much going on. She was under the influence and she had to serve time and just looked like she didn't really care. So pretty much now she is out of prison, going back to her same hometown. She had a child while in prison, their child together. She found out she was pregnant while she was serving time. Her mom wasn't a really good mom to her, and so therefore her parental rights were turned over to Scotty's parents. And the book is pretty much just about forgiveness and second chances. She ends up going to town. She meets Ledger, who is actually Scotty's best friend, who she had never met, which in my opinion, it's a little weird because how you been dating somebody for a whole year and something, you've never met his best friend? That's a little weird to me. Now, I understand that he's supposed to be like in the NFL or whatever, but still, you never met him. I'm just like, that's a bit weird to me. It's giving this is a movie because I don't see myself being with somebody and I've never met their friends or whatever. That's a little odd. But yeah, but him and her, she meets him the first day she comes out. She goes to it used to be like a bookstore or a library, but he turns into a bar. They meet, the first night they have this instant connection, not even knowing who each other really are. And they find out who each other are, and he finds out, oh, this is the girl that killed my best friend. And, Ledger, he has taken on a role of pretty much he's really helping raise the daughter that Kenna and Scotty had together. And so it's a lot, but they form a bond, him and her, and they start, seeing each other, but kind of in secret because one, he knows how much that's going to hurt Scotty's parents by seeing him with the person that, unalived their child. So it's a lot, but it is a really good book. For some reason, I can't think of the daughter's name right now. I cannot think of the daughter's name, and I hate that it's not on here. I can't think of her name. Oh my God, this is so annoying. Yeah, I can't think of her name. But this book is really, really good. The movie was good. I will say the movie was okay. I'd give the movie a good 6 out of 10. Honestly, I really wish I don't like how they skipped quite a bit of parts. I feel like they skipped Diem. That's her daughter's name, Diem. I don't like how they skipped some parts, or I feel like the movie versus the book, it kind of seemed like it was moving fast forward. They were trying to hurry up and rush it. And I don't really like that. But, I get it. I mean, it's a movie, but at the same time, you got 3-4-hour movie, so y'all could have made a movie a little bit longer. I'm just saying. But, I mean, I think they did a pretty decent job, trying to make it. All right, and the next book I read was Keep Me by Miss Sarah Kate. Let me tell you something. Sarah Kate, she's that girl. She is such a good spicy book writer. I love her. Killian and So Sylvie is a, you know, she goes on a trip with her and her then boyfriend, and they, for some reason, she wants to go to this house. I don't know why she wants to stick it to this. She wants to stick it to this like house and see a picture of something, and it's like this really big mansion in Scotland or what is it, Ireland, Scotland, what do you want to call it? And so she ends up meeting this like really big, like a Scottish guy, Irish guy, whatever. His name is Killian, and you know, she gets caught in the house. She makes up a story. She almost gets like, she could have got arrested, okay? So she gets back home to the States, and you know, her parents, they make money, but they cut her off just because, I don't know, I bet they feel like she isn't doing anything, so they cut her off, and so she's kind of having to live on her own. And her parents have always kind of been neglectful and not really good parents, just rich and just, you know, kind of stupid. And she ends up one day finding out that her best friend and her man are sleeping together. So of course she leaves them. And eventually, randomly, Killian's sister reaches out to her and has a proposal that she wants her to stay married to her brother for at least a year, and she'll get like $10 million or whatever. And of course, Sylvia, who ain't got no money, was like, oh yeah, I'm about to get that. So she literally does that, and it's funny. But yeah, she literally does that, and she marries this guy that she doesn't even know. But they want him to get married because they're trying to take the estate from him, because Killian, you know, once his parents died, he kind of went into this really deep, dark depression, and all he does is just stay at home in the manor and doesn't really do much. And they end up, you know, in this like love-hate situation. But when I tell you this book was so cute, I literally finished this book in less than 24 hours. Like, I did not, yeah. And it's not a thin book. I mean, it's at least 321 pages. So it's not a thin book, but I finished this book in a good, like 20, maybe 20 hours. I'm telling you, this book was so good. It was so cute. I definitely recommend this book, and I would definitely read this book again. The third book is actually the second to last book in the series that I'm currently about to finish, which is the Salacious Players Club series by Miss Sarah Kate. But the name of this book is Highest Bidder. This one is actually pretty decent. Pretty much, it follows Daisy, who is the daughter of someone that Roman used to be in love with, which is kind of crazy. But she like purposely gets a job at the club that he works at. If you know this series, you know that Salacious is like a sex club where they do the do. And so pretty much she gets a job there on purpose because her mom ends up passing from cancer. And so she wants to kind of find out who is this guy that left her a check for like, I think like $1 million something. She wants to know who this guy is. So she finds out who the guy is. She doesn't really know like what his relationship was with her mother, but she knows it was something. And at first she's like, oh, you know, who's this guy? She finds out who he is, but she's trying to figure out what he did, what did him and her mother have. And him and her end up dating. Yes, they end up like falling in love with each other. Mind you, the age gap is way big. Like she's like 21, 22. He's like 56, 57. So yeah, this is definitely a big age gap romance. And the reason it's called Highest Bidder is because one day her and Gio, who's one of the bartenders at the club, he makes a bet and she loses the bet. And so she has to go up there to like, you know, get bidded on for the night or whatever. And Rowan ends up bidding on her for, I forget how much, like it was like close to $1 million he bid on her. And that's how they started kind of talking and kind of having a conversation. And that's when he found out that she was sleeping in her van. And mind you, she has a whole check that she hasn't cashed for a $1 million that he gave her, but she doesn't tell him that yet, and she doesn't know why, because she's trying to figure out why he gave her this check. And that's when she ends up finding out that him and her mother had a full-blown relationship. They were kind of in love, but she chose her, the daughter, instead. So yeah, this book is definitely really good. But I definitely recommend if you're going to read this book, read the whole series. And here's the thing, with this particular series, you don't necessarily have to read it in order, but it may make a little more sense if you read it in order, if you get what I'm saying. The next book is still part of this series, the Salacious Players Club. This one is called Mercy. This one is pretty good too. This one is about one of the, so pretty much the whole series kind of follows different like owners and people that are part of the Salacious Players Club. So this one's about Maggie. So Maggie is more so like, she's part of the club, but she's very reserved, kind of shy, kind of quiet, and she's definitely not as, you know, outgoing and as like sexually free as the rest of her friends that own the club. So she decides to she takes the kink test one day, because it's an app. You take a kink test to figure out like what is your kink or whatever. She takes it. She finds out that she's actually a dom, meaning she's like, you know, dominant. She's one of those women, and she starts actually messing with Bo. So Bo is Emerson's son. Emerson is actually Emerson is like one of the main owners of the club, and his son is like 20. This is also an age gap relationship too, because she's like in her late 30s, possibly early 40s, and he's like 22, 23, but he's a really nice looking guy. And it's kind of weird because she knew him from a child, and now like she's now sleeping with him. And so for a while they sleep together without anyone knowing, because she did of course she doesn't want to tell like one of her best friends like, hey, I'm sleeping with your son. That's a little bit weird to tell somebody, you know. So she does not end up telling him for a while. But this book is actually really, really good. I did enjoy this. He's also kind of a brat too, so it's kind of funny because he plays a submissive role with her. They both get to be something that they're not, which is kind of the whole point, I think, of all of that. But yeah, this book is pretty good. Another age gap situation, like I said. The books will make sense if you read them in the correct order. Right? This one is, I think, book 3 of this same series. This one is called Give Me More. Now, this one, as of so far, because I'm on the last book of this series, it's called Madame. This one is by far my favorite book of the series. I thought it was going to be the first one, which is Praise, but actually it's this one, okay? When I tell you this book right here, yeah. So this book follows Drake, Hunter, and Isabella. Hunter is one of the, he's one of the like owners of the club too, and then he's been married to Isabel. Him and Isabel have been married they've been married for a while, right? And Drake is like Drake is pretty much their best friend. They all knew each other in college. Drake is also part of the construction team for the club. And he pretty much has fun. He does exactly what he wants to do. He says that he wants to sleep with, all of that. But they end up understanding that they actually all have feelings for each other, okay? Like all 3 of them have feelings for each other. And pretty much, Isabel and Hunter, they decide that so pretty much while all 3 of them are taking like an adventure to like go out to different clubs and kind of see, what it is, they start to like develop feelings for each other, or they've always kind of had those feelings for each other. And so they all pretty much have fun with each other. And, Hunter and Isabel, they want to pretty much invite Drake into their marriage. And let me just tell you, this book has a lot going on. But I think it also talks about just, accepting things and being truthful with yourself and loving yourself and, forgiveness and opening up and all that. And honestly, this is definitely one of my favorite books of this series. And the spice in this book, 10 out of 10, all right? First of all, like I said, the whole series, the spice is going to be pretty good. But this one is by far my favorite book of the entire series. All right, my next book is Priest. This is by Miss Sierra Simone. This book was actually pretty good. I will say the priest in this book, he showed like zero restraint. Like, man, come on, bro. So pretty much this guy, he becomes a priest. His name is Tyler, and he becomes a priest in this town, and he's trying to be this good guy, but this one woman, she comes in the first day, and for some reason she comes in confession, and he gets to see her in person. And obviously as a priest, you're not supposed to be doing anything. Like your priest is supposed to be not married, not doing anything nasty. And he meets this girl Poppy, and yeah. And when I tell you they decide that it's smart to do the do in the church, like really, y'all, come on now. But yes, I mean, they're doing the do in the church. They're using holy oil. I'm like, oh my God. So yes, this book is unhinged, okay? Unhinged. But it's really good. And it also, I feel like I love that, he eventually has to make the decision on whether or not being a priest is important to him or following after his heart with Poppy. And I really enjoyed this book. And I think that if you're someone that wants that kind of like priest fantasy, then maybe this book is for you for sure, for sure. But yeah, like I said, Tyler, I feel like he showed like zero restraint. Like, bro, how you a priest and you get seduced by her day one? Like, come on, bro. You gotta do better than that. He really does. Also, most of these books are spicy, by the way. Just saying. Very few are not. I think the rest of these books might be spicy books, and that's okay. So my next book is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. Now, I have been seeing this on my For You page all over TikTok, so I was like, I have to read this book. Okay, so this one is pretty much Jordan. You know, it's her birthday one day, and she goes to this movie. She meets this guy. Her and this guy, he's older, but he's really good looking apparently. And they kind of like have a little bit of a connection. But as they're leaving the movie theater, he's like trying to figure out, you know, during the movie, he's trying to figure out, you know, why she's spending her birthday by herself and all that. So during the movie theater, he gets a call, and it's her boyfriend, which she finds out, oh shit, this is her boyfriend's dad. And so they end up getting put at the apartment, and they end up having to move in with Pike, which is kind of weird because she had a little bit of connection with him at the movies, and now she has to act like nothing because she's now living with her boyfriend's dad. But him and her and her boyfriend, their relationship is definitely on the rocks. And so she's like, you know what? He's spending a lot of time away from home, and so her and the dad, her and Pike, they kind of like build this bond, and they're trying not to build a bond because she knows that, you know, this is her boyfriend's dad, but she also can't help the connection that she has with him or the attraction they have for each other. Now, mind you, she is much younger, but he is older, but he's also a really great guy, and it's just a lot going on in this movie. And she ends up catching the boyfriend cheating on her, which is horrible. He moves out. She still stays there because she doesn't have nowhere to go. And her and Pike, they just have this really good bond. And it's that fantasy of, you know, if that's a fantasy for you, your boyfriend's dad, your boyfriend's hot dad, then hey, why not? So I definitely feel like this is a pretty good book, though. Honestly, I wouldn't be mad if they made like a book, they made like a series, like a TV series or like a movie. Wouldn't be mad at it. Just saying. If I thought that book was on my For You page, this book was for sure on my For You page. Every time I looked up like spicy book recommendations, this book forever popped up, okay? First of all, everyone talks about the scene where pretty much he puts her head underwater in shark-infested water and is doing the nasty. Yeah, so this book was crazy. This is definitely a crazy book. But it actually has a pretty crazy plot to it. It's not just about them. It has a pretty crazy plot to it. You know, him and her, they don't know each other whatsoever, but they kind of get into this like entanglement in a sense. And then they end up getting lost on this like island, and they get help from this man that they hope they can get help from. In this lighthouse, they get stranded on this, like, you know, a part of the beach. And so they go to this lighthouse thinking that it's empty when it was really the old man living there. And they're like, okay, this old man's living here. So he kind of helps them out, but the old man's kind of creepy. Like, he's a little bit weird, a little bit crazy. And at night when they go to their room, you know, he had like strict rules, like the door has to be locked. They have to go to bed at 9 o'clock. The door's locked. They can't get out of the room. It's kind of weird. So even though the book has like, you know, some spicy, it also has some crazy in it too. And she a little thick. I ain't gonna lie, sis is a little thick. I want to say this book was 400 pages even, or a little bit, no, let me tell you. This book is 403 pages, or 404. So it's 404 pages long. The guy is kind of crazy. He said that there's like a boat that comes every so often that they can possibly get on. They said it for a little minute, and at night they also hear they hear footsteps and they hear like chains, and they're trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Like, why are we hearing somebody like walking, like something walking with like chained on? And he's saying like, oh, it's just the ghost, or whatever he's trying to say. And it ends up being really crazy because he's apparently like holding somebody hostage, and it is a crazy book. There are some crazy things that go on in this book for sure. I think you might have just thought it was just about spice, but no. Because hearing about the whole shark thing, you're thinking, oh, this is just a spicy book. No, 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 no. This book has a crazy ass plot in it. So yeah, definitely check this one out for sure. All right, so this book, they made a movie, which I actually really enjoyed the movie, and that is The Housemaid. Now, I will say I'm a little bit upset that they made the cover like this. I mean, not that I'm mad at the cover, but I wanted the original cover. This is not the original cover. The original cover, I forget how it looks now because they made it like this, and I'm kind of mad that they made it like that, but whatever. But once again, you guys know me as a book nerd. I decided to read the book before I watched the movie. But let me just say, I definitely said they did a very, very good job portraying the movie. Portraying the book into the movie. Like, the actors, they did a good job. The director, everybody killed it. This one's pretty much about Millie. Millie is someone who just got out of prison. She had a kind of a rough, teenage childhood in a sense. She went to prison because she pretty much she saw her roommate or somebody getting assaulted, and she hit him in the head with a snow globe, and and so she pretty much decided to take it upon herself. So she got arrested because the girl pretty much didn't even defend her. I saved you and you don't even, it's crazy. So she goes to prison for some years. She gets out. She's trying to find a good job. And she has a history of not messing around with men. She said, you heard a man? A woman? That's a rap. So yeah, so she ends up getting this really great job. She ends up going for a nanny position. She gets a job with the Winchesters. And, at first she's thinking everything's perfect, but the wife's kind of odd, and the wife is kind of weird, and she's trying to figure out what the heck is going on here. The wife says she has a problem. She's accusing Millie of random things. And the husband, he seems like he's so sweet. She's trying to figure out why is he with her? Because in the book and the movie, the husband's a really handsome man. And, she just can't figure out why is he putting up with Nina? Why is he putting up with this crazy lady? And then the daughter they have, she's kind of a little bit of a brat. So it's kind of weird. And then Enzo, who is the groundskeeper, he's kind of odd. Now, I will say, if you're somebody that watched the movie and read the book, I don't like how Enzo really didn't have any type of say in the movie. I feel like he definitely had a lot more talking in the book. In the movie, he barely had any words. Also, something else I noticed they changed was in the movie, Nina is supposed. I guess she's explained to be a woman that's a little bit fuller figured, but in the movie, obviously, it's played by her, and she's on the skinnier side. So they did switch up a few things. And then also at the end, at the end of this book, the mom was kind of on the side of them, on their side, versus in the movie, she kind of was still having something to say. And so a lot of it was Andrew was trying to get his mom's love, and it was crazy. But let me just say, the actor that played Andrew, yeah, if you've seen the movie, he looks good. Y'all were killing me in the comments. People were commenting if it was just me, I would just get my roots dyed. Because pretty much she finds out Nina is the one that's crazy. It's Andrew. Andrew is, something's going on with him. And it's a lot going on. He literally locks her up. He locks, her up, and she finds out what's really going on in this household. But yeah, the movie was crazy. The book was really crazy, but it was so good and definitely worth the read and definitely worth the watch. All right, and my second to last book is also from the same author, Miss Freida McFadden, and also kind of the second part of this book, which is The Housemaid's Secret. This book, pretty good. This one still follows Millie. And this time she's working for another family or another couple. And this time she's thinking, okay, you know what? I'm working for this couple. Nothing can be too crazy. She pretty much gets herself in another situation where I'm oh, here we go again. Now, Enzo is in this book as well, because her and Enzo, apparently from the last book, they kind of started dating and seeing each other. But he ends up leaving, going back to Italy for a little while because he's Italian. He goes back to Italy to take care of his mom, and so she is kind of distraught, and so she ends up dating this lawyer. Him and her are dating, but she's still working, as a housekeeper, nanny, whatever. She gets this couple, and at first, things are normal, but the husband's kind of weird. And then the wife, he's always well, don't bother her. She stays in her room all day, and she's supposed to be sick or whatever. But Millie one day goes in there and looks at her, and she sees her very frail. She looks horrible. She's sickly. It looks crazy. And so she pretty much tries to help her escape, because like I said, after a while, Enzo and Millie, that was their thing. They were helping, abused and battered women get away from their crazy husbands. And so she tries to help her get away. And the biggest like plot twist is in this book, okay? Because it's like, whoa. Like, I don't want to spoil it too much, but the biggest plot is a twist. There's a pretty big twist to this situation. And she finds out that this is why you just can't help everybody. Everybody doesn't need to be helped. Everybody don't deserve to be helped. But she pretty much gets herself in a situation where she's having to once again face the law. And we all know she's no stranger to the law. So yeah, it's a lot going on. But this book is really, really good. And this one's a little bit thick too. This one got some weight on it. Got a little weight on it. But yeah, this is definitely pretty good. I definitely enjoyed this book as well. I'm not going to say it was better than the first, like The Housemaid, but it's pretty good. And I know the next one is called The Housemaid is Always Watching, and I definitely have to read that one as well. All right, and my absolute last book, as of now, that I read was The Good Girl Effect by Miss Sarah Kate. If you haven't noticed, I love Miss Sarah Kate. I really do enjoy her. Now, this was supposed to be part of the Salacious Legacy, which is supposed to be like part of the Salacious Players Club series, but like the legacy part, I don't know. Now, I will say I wasn't the biggest fan of this book. I'm not gonna lie. This book was okay. I do love how it talks about different things. I feel like this book is about forgiveness, second chances at love, second chances at life, grief. But I wasn't the biggest fan of the book. So pretty much Camille, she is this, you know, kind of woman that's kind of like, they both are in France. And she works at a bookstore and, you know, her life is kind of, you know, And she sees this one book where a picture and a letter fall out of it. And it's a picture of a beautiful couple and a letter that at first she wanted to read, but she's like, no, this is too private. So for some reason, because she's so bored, she decides to take a train to Paris to return the letter and picture to the actual rightful owners. And that's when she shows up at the door at Jack's doorstep, which is the husband in the picture. And she pretty much, the person that answers the door thinks that she's there for the nanny position. So she pretty much lies about why she's even there in the first place. She gets a position because the little girl really does like her. And, you know, she becomes a nanny for this person. And she finds out that Jack is really closed off. You know, he's not even really there for his daughter in a sense because of the grief that he has by losing his wife, the woman in the picture, a couple of years back. And so it's a lot going on. But him and her, they kind of finally open up to each other and they have this bond. And like I said, it's about grief. It's about second chances. It's about, you know, forgiveness and all that. But I just wasn't the biggest fan of the book. I don't know. It was, like I said, it was okay, but I just wasn't the biggest fan. Honestly, the spice in this book was, it was all right. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. The plot, probably the same thing, 5.5, 6 out of 10. If you're into that like nanny and sleeping with the dad thing, then okay. And a lot of times you think of the nanny and dad, usually the guy is married and she's sneaking with the nanny. But this time, you know, his wife is deceased, and so there's no way sneaking around. I mean, yeah, they're sneaking in a sense because they don't really want the daughter to know that they're, even though the daughter, she's like, what, 5 or 6 or whatever. But yeah, but I think it was an okay book. I'm not going to say it was my favorite book in the world. It was all right. But yeah. So those are all the books that I have read over the last however long. It's been a minute since I've done one. And so I was like, all right, no, I've never done one on here. So I was like, let me do a book review. So I definitely want to start doing these more often where I have like a TBR list or have books that I go buy and then, okay, I review the books that I just, you know, finished the last book trip that I had. So currently I am reading, like I said, I'm reading Madame, which is the last book of the Salacious Players Club series. If you have finished the series, then let me know. I may also come back and do the whole, well, I don't know. I may do, but I may not, since I kind of already did. I probably should have not did those books. That might would have helped a little bit. But yeah, so let me know though if you have read any of these books or if any of these books are on your TBR or if you want to go ahead and add these books to your TBR for sure. But yeah, so I will see you guys in my next video and have a great day.